everyone! We are back with another video this week. And this week I have received my new pens. They are currently actually at my dad's, but I will be getting them later. And I figured we'd start with sketching anyway. I thought today we could start with drawing some frogs. I had the idea that each frog could have its own different theme / element to it. It came from the idea of making them into potion bottles, but then when I would start drawing the first one, I liked this idea better instead. So each frog is a different species of frog, and based on that species of frog, I've given them a different little element. It's very subtle, but I like how they turned out. This first frog is the black-eyed tree frog, and I gave him the power of clairvoyance, so he can see what will be and what has been and what is to come. I gave him a dark orb that rests between his feet, because I thought it would match well with his eyes. The second frog you can see me drawing is the blue poison dart frog, and I decided to just give him the general theme of space. I didn't change him too much from his original sort of look. I just changed his spots to look more like stars. I still kept the colours the same because I thought they didn't need changing and I really liked them, so I just kept going with that. I really didn't want to change too much about how these frogs looked. I wanted to try and keep it more closer to the reference because at the same time as I'm colouring these in and trying these markers out, I'm also studying how these frogs look. I realised that when I try and draw frogs, it never ends up really well, so by studying these from references, I can actually gain more experience and get better at it. As you can see, I decided to change a couple of things about my sketch, like the position of the hands and the little crown I gave him. That's just because I wasn't too happy with how I had done it, so I just went back in and tweaked it. I'm also considering adding some fan art pages to my YouTube channel. I haven't drawn anything in this sketchbook, but I have got a couple doodles on my iPad. But I'm not entirely sure if I should post them to my YouTube channel, because I wanted this mostly to be of my original art and studies, but I don't know, I think you guys might like some fan art, and I like drawing fan art, so why not? I might do one video and experiment, see how well that works, and if it goes well, then I might make some more. This frog is the African rain frog, and I decided to give him the power over weather, because he's a rain frog, and they are the grumpiest, cutest little things ever. They look so squidgy, and the videos I've seen of them is so funny because when they get angry, they make these really angry squeaks. It is the best thing ever. I didn't realize how difficult it would actually be to draw him. He has to be round, but also kind of square at the same time. It's difficult to explain, but I'm still really happy how the sketch came out. Oh, would you look at that? Another dart frog. I think I really like dart frogs because I've drawn two of them now. This one is the red-backed dart frog, and I gave him the secondary ability of fire. I really like the idea of turning the red marking on his back into fire, almost like it's coming off of him. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's reminding me a little bit of that lizard from Frozen 2. Was not what I was going for at all. I wasn't even thinking about him. Now that I'm doing the voiceover, is he coming to mind? I really wish I hadn't drawn him on the crease of the book though, because I really like how he looks, like, at the end of all this. So, if I do ever decide to make him into a sticker or something like that, I will definitely have to go in and heavily edit him, which is a little annoying, but it is what it is. I need to learn from mistakes and stop drawing on the crease so much. Well, now we have our frogs. I suppose we need to colour them in, don't we? Da, 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 da. So here are the pens I had instead of the Ohuhu ones, because from the last video you would know that they leaked really badly. But I've got these ones now. The Jusart Acrylic Marker set. There's 24 colours in here. I have had a little look at them the other day, but I haven't used them in a drawing. Also, just to point out, the packaging itself actually came pretty badly damaged. I think that's the postman, I don't know. It just came like that, but it's fine, it's whatever. I'll still use them as long as the pens are good. I don't really care about the packaging anyway. So here are the pens. Comes in 2 trays. colours are very nice from what I can see. I did have a little swatch of them in a different book that I don't have with me. And, well, I'm a bit hit and miss with these. We'll have another look at them again though, just so you can see. It's not the best paper, but it's just a test. These are a lot like the Ohuhu ones. They have a little ball inside so that you can shake them up and mix all the paints. Yes, I think there's a ball inside. It's very quiet. You can see there's a window there for seeing how much paint is left in it, but you can also see that on the front as well. So instead of just being one window, there's two, which is actually kind of nice rather than rotating it, having to try and find it. This is the black. I'll just do a little swatch. Yeah, it seems fine. Reason I've done it so big is because I want to test a few colours on top of it to see how it both layers and how the colours will build on themselves. It's not bad, that's a nice sky blue. This looks like the darkest blue. Let's have a look at this. I'll compare it to the Ohuhu Darkest Blue because that was my favourite colour in the batch. Looking at these with the Ohuhus, let's go off this bid. The darkest blue looks like the lighter blue that I used as part of shading. You know, this section here and this blob here. It seems to match pretty closely, but they don't have this nice, rich, deep colour. So I'll still probably have to use the Quote Black one that I have, despite it not being my favourite pen, even though the colour's really pretty. Let's see what this purple's like. It's a nice colour. It's not quite being picked up the same way as on my screen as it is in real life. It's a little bit more on the pink side than what you're seeing. Ooh, that's a lovely colour. Let's see how these layer. It's not bad. I can kind of see the other colour through it just a little bit. Alright, this is the white, so this is going to be the real test. Go with light blue. I don't know if you can see that. You can kind of see through it a little bit. Yeah, it's a little bit on the sheer side. Okay, I didn't leave that dry fast enough. Ooh, okay. That's not brilliant. It, despite me leaving that to dry, it still picked up some of the black as I went over it, and it's not very strong. Might have to improvise with that at some point. But otherwise, yeah, they're pretty decent pens. The ink themselves could be better. I mean, I like the Ohuhu pens better still, despite the leaking. So if you can get a set that doesn't leak, I recommend doing that. But I'm gonna stick with these for now because, well, I have them here now and I don't want to send another set back just because it's a little nitpicky. Right, I'll let this dry for a bit longer. Let's see if that's made any difference. Well, it's not picking up the colour anymore, that's good. It's still a bit on the transparent side. The thing that I noticed most about these pens is that even though when you first put them down this year, they build quite nicely on top of each other, for a little bit I was actually worried that it would leak through to the other page because it was slightly sinking into the paper with the first layer. But after checking it, and I kept checking it a few times, you could probably see me doing it in the video, flipping through, it actually came out pretty okay. Like, nothing really leaked. Not terribly, at least. A little bit came off on one of the pages, but luckily that's a page with nothing on it yet, so I can probably cover that up somehow. The colours themselves are extremely vibrant, and I'm really thankful for that, because I do like a nice, bright colour. I will say that the white, though, isn't nearly as thick as I would have liked it to have been. It really could have had a bit more of a thicker, creamier consistency than it does. Because it is quite watery, I think that kind of contributes to it being quite sheer. It still covers, it's still not bad, but I feel like it could be better, especially in comparison to some of the other colours. But anyway, I'm starting to go off on a tangent. The pens themselves, quite nice. I like the barrels. They feel very nice to hold. They're a bit longer than the Ohuhu ones, but I will say that I do actually prefer the Ohuhu ones in that regard as well. But the Jusart pens are just fine as well. Other than them being slightly sheerer, you're still getting the same amount of pens. They're a bit longer, so I think there's a little bit more ink in the barrel, though don't quote me on that. And, well, you got a different variety of colours. You got some mid-tones in there as well, which I personally appreciate, because my issue with the Ohuhu ones that even though the colours themselves were nice and the paint inside was really nice, they were all brights, with the exception of the dark blue. And speaking of the blue, there isn't as dark of a blue in this kit as there were in the Ohuhu ones, but that's okay. I can improvise that with my crowfoot blacks. Just, I have to be careful with the tips because they're so rough. I'm actually tempted to do a little experiment with the crowfoot blacks at some point, but not right now. You can see that I'm actually going back and forth with the pen tips and then sometimes a paintbrush to blend out colours. It just makes my life a little bit easier sometimes to use the paintbrush because I don't want to muddy my pen tips too much. I am wiping them off on a piece of paper on the side, but I'd rather not accidentally ruin them. The paint does seem to sink into the paper very easily, especially this black. Like, I'm starting to get a bit worried about the other page, but luckily nothing's gone through yet. But it is just, like, sinking in and not sitting on top of the paper. To some extent that is nice, because I don't have to worry about smudging it too much, but at the same time it makes me worry about my other drawings. I don't know if it's because these pens are a bit more liquidy than the other markers I've got, but they do pill quite a bit more than the Ohuhu ones did. Like, I had no pilling with the Ohuhu ones, but it was almost happening straight away with these Jusart markers. But it's not terrible, it's just something like I have to keep an eye on. Like, it likes to work better with a thin layer of its own product underneath it, and then building on it, just as long as you don't rub too hard, I guess. Mind you, the sketchbook paper I'm using isn't particularly great anyway, but it should have withstood this a little bit more than it honestly has. I mean, even my cheaper markers didn't pill quite this much, but that is a particular brand that I'm still not mentioning because I'm still angry that I like them. And I'm not talking the crowfoot and black ones, I'm talking a different brand. You know, just to put it out there, the reason I don't like this unnamed brand is because it's a brand that I know has for definite used AI in their packaging, and I absolutely hate AI art. It's what's making me afraid to post any digital art onto YouTube at the moment in case of it gaining anyone's attention. But going back to this brand, they use AI art on their packaging, and to me that just seems like they have no faith in their own product, despite being what's probably the most affordable brand of art supplies in the UK at the moment. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, the amount of art supplies that they have. They have alcohol markers, they have paint markers, they have pencils, they have watercolors, they have these things called aqua markers, which are basically just your regular felt pens. It's just atrocious that they think that this is a good idea. If they collaborated with another artist, because I'm sure that somebody would at least be willing to work with them if they had opened up an option for it, then perhaps then their packaging could reflect how good their supplies actually are, because now I just refuse to buy from them anymore. Effectively, it's done the complete opposite of what a good packaging is supposed to do. Packaging is supposed to make the buyer want to buy the product, whilst this, because it's a slap in the face to artists, is making artists turn their nose up and walk away from the product. So you're alienating your own clientele, which I think is a really bad business practice. Which is a real shame because their products are genuinely good. So that's why I refuse to name them in my video. I don't want to gain their attention and I don't want to advertise them. Even though they've got good products, I refuse to give them any acknowledgement because of their AI. So this will probably be the last you'll hear me talking about them at all, even if I do use the products in a video for a drawing. I will not be mentioning or linking the name anymore. I think that out of all the paint markers that I currently own, like excluding the Ohuhu ones that I had sent back, these are probably my favourite. Even though they haven't got the same blue that I really like, the rest of the pens are actually a really nice collection of colours that all go well together. Blending is really smooth, I enjoy it, and even though the paints are a bit sheer, when you get it going and start layering it on top, it's really not as bad. It's actually quite enjoyable. Even though the paper pills, I think that is most likely a sketchbook issue, but it could also be the tips, I'm not entirely sure, but it doesn't really matter. Turning back to the frogs though, I'm really happy with how they came out as a whole. I feel like I could have fit another frog in there had I just drawn one or two of them a little smaller and moved them over a bit. But it's a bit late for that now, and I've committed, and I'm still quite happy with the page as a whole. Maybe I'm just looking for an excuse to draw more frogs, I don't know. I really like frogs. They're saying that I really like a lot of animals, so I don't think it's frogs exclusive. I think I just really like drawing frogs today. Out of all these frogs, I really can't decide which one's my favourite. I think it's a toss-up between the red back dot frog and the blue dot frog. Mainly because I'm a sucker for the colour blue, but I also really like how the red back dot frog came out because I just really like the teal colour that was used on his belly. I don't know why. It scratches that part of my brain. It's probably just because it's a bright colour and I love bright colours. It could be any number of things. Maybe it's just a really good frog. I don't know. I was actually tempted to use my blue Crowfoot and Black paint pen on the blue dot frog because the blue that I had used in the kit wasn't quite dark enough for me. I did try to mix my own blue by adding the different paints from the paint pens into a little palette and mixing it, but the colour wasn't right either, so clearly I can't do that. The reason I didn't do this was because I wanted to try and keep in the spirit of using the pens from just the set. I did break that rule a bit with the last frog, but only because it was getting to a point where I had to. Just like with my previous sketchbook page where I used the Ohuhu markers, I did use purple to be my darkest shade, and I managed to actually layer it with a blue to get some slightly darker colours. While it's not necessarily bad how they came out, I do think that it would have benefited from that darker paint pen. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry, my camera's shaking so much. That was not on purpose. I think I must have knocked it or something I didn't realise until afterwards. I do apologise. I hate it when it does this. Looks like I might need to tighten something on my setup. I'll have that fixed by next week. I'm sorry. You might have noticed that whenever I drew one of the frog's eyes that were black, I added a little bit of blue to it. That was to act like a bit of reflection. While I wanted the eyes to look quite dark and soulless, I still wanted there to be a little bit of light reflecting off it. That way you can see they're a bit more on the round side. And in my opinion, it turned out quite well. I'm really proud of the idea of changing the blue dot frog's patterning, like the black marks on its body, into stars. Though I think I could have done it a little bit better. What it was is that these brush tips are actually quite thick, and I wanted these to be quite dainty. I think what I should have done actually was going with a fine liner to do that, but again, I was trying to do this entire page nearly entirely in paint markers, so I didn't afford myself that leniency, even if it wouldn't have really changed much. And then right after this, I go and break my own rules. You can probably see I've already painted this frog before. But I didn't like how it turned out, so here's me going back over it. But I'm not using the Jusart markers here. I am actually going over it with some other paint markers I have, which is a mixture of Crowfoot and black ones, and the brand that must not be named. Reason why I've done this is because I didn't quite have the exact colours I wanted in the Jusart set, and I didn't want there to be like a really messed up looking frog on my page, because it ended up being really muddied, because like with the crows in the last video, I went a bit overboard with it. But I toned it down, went back, had a look, found I did have the markers I wanted for the colours, but they just weren't in the same set, but I just thought I'd use them anyway. Just know that this frog wasn't painted with the same tools. And in my pursuit of trying to make this frog at least look half decent, I have actually lost the theming in it, so that makes me a little bit sad, but not too sad, because he still fits in with everything else. Just, I wanted his patches to look like rain clouds, and some little spots to look like raindrops, but that didn't really work out when I was painting it before, so when I went over it again, it just kind of changed to just be like a straight up study of this picture that I had found. One of the differences that I hadn't actually noticed until I was drawing between the marker set who must not be named and the set that must be named, which is the Jusart set, is that the cheaper set actually is a bit strange. It has like a really shiny texture when you put it down, while the Jusart is just completely matte. It also really didn't want to build properly on top of the other markers underneath it. And when I was going over it with the Jusart markers, it was almost like repelling it somewhat, like it was an oily surface with water on top. It still dried fine, but it was just really weird to work with. I mean, it felt really slippy, like it really didn't want to work. I managed to get it to work in the end, thankfully, so it's okay. I know now that I shouldn't be using these cheaper markers with the Jusart set. They just don't mix very well. Well, here we are. Here are our finished frogs. I hope you really liked watching this video as much as I enjoyed recording it. These pens are really fun to work with, and I will definitely be using them more and more. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you did. And hey, how about you leave a comment down below and let me know which of these frogs was your favourite. And if you don't want to talk frogs in the comment section below, that's fine. Just say anything. It'll make me day. Anyway, bye!